Story 1. We passed the same gas station 3 times, but never turned around. This happened to me in the fall of 2019. We were on a cross-country road trip, me, my sister Abby, and my best friend Chris. We were headed from Chicago to Portland, planning to camp along the way, take our time. That first night, we passed through a long stretch of rural South Dakota. Our plan had been to stop around 10 p.m., find a rest area or cheap motel, but the towns were sparse out there and the gas tank was getting low. Chris was driving at that point, and Abby had nodded off in the back seat. I was riding shotgun, watching the GPS, trying to find anything, even a 24-hour diner or a lit sign. The strange thing was, every time I refreshed the map, the distance to our next stop, a gas station called Service Point Junction, stayed exactly the same, 46 minutes away. Even after 10-15 minutes of driving, I assumed the app was just bugging out, maybe we lost signal, but then it started doing something weird. The roads were changing slightly. Same town name, same highway number, but the route would shift slightly to the left or right on the screen, like the GPS was recalculating, but nothing else had changed. I asked Chris if he noticed. He just shrugged and said the miles weren't going down either. Then something clicked. I opened Google Maps, then Apple Maps, then Waze. All of them said the same thing, 46 minutes to Service Point Junction. All of them showed slightly different curves in the road, and none of them had cell reception. We had downloaded the route earlier, so everything we were seeing was cached. That was the first time I looked up and realized I didn't recognize anything anymore. It wasn't that it was unfamiliar, it was that it was too familiar. The same set of reflectors, the same green road sign that just said West, the same billboard, peeling blue paint and a blank white square where the advertisement used to be. After a while, Chris got quiet. His hands were still on the wheel, but he wasn't saying much. "You okay?" I asked. He didn't answer right away. Then he said, "Didn't we pass that exit already?" He pointed at a ramp coming up on the right. Just a small one. Exit 31A. No city listed, just state services. I'd seen it too. "Yes," I said. "Like 20 minutes ago." Abby stirred in the back, maybe hearing our voices. "Are we there yet?" she mumbled, still groggy. We didn't answer. A mile or so down the road, we saw it. Service Point Junction. It was the only building in sight. A 2-pump station with a rusted green awning, one flickering fluorescent over the register, and a crooked ice machine to the left of the entrance. We pulled in. Chris got out to pump. I went inside for snacks. The clerk didn't look up when I walked in. Just a guy in a flannel hoodie, sitting behind the counter, half watching a tiny black and white TV. No shelves, no food, just a single fridge in the back that buzzed loudly and emitted a faint chemical smell like old Freon or burnt plastic. "Bathroom?" I asked. He didn't say anything, just nodded at a door behind the register. I didn't go. Something about the place felt wrong, isn't the right word. Empty. Like no one else had been in there for a very long time. The fridge door had one bottle of water, no label. I walked out and saw Abby standing by the car. Chris was just finishing the pump. I remember him looking at the nozzle like something was off. "I only got 3 gallons in," he said. "It just stopped." We checked the receipt. 3 gallons, paid in full. Then we left. Back on the road, I opened the GPS again. Our next stop, a diner in the next town. Distance, 46 minutes. Abby was wide awake now, watching the windows. Chris was gripping the wheel tighter. He hadn't turned around. We just kept driving, and then 30 minutes later we saw it again. Service Point Junction. Same shape, same pumps, same broken restrooms for customers only sign, crooked on the window. We didn't say anything this time, just kept driving. We passed the gas station again at 2:23 a.m. We all saw it. The second time, it was unmistakable. Same rusted ice machine, same garbage bag snagged on the fence. But it looked worse this time. Dirtier. The ice machine was open this time, door hanging half off, bags of ice melting onto the concrete. One of the pumps was missing a hose. None of us spoke. Abby leaned forward and said, You guys, we've already stopped there. That's the exact same place. Chris muttered something I couldn't catch. We kept driving. That stretch of highway didn't change. No exits, no cars coming the other direction. Every few miles we'd pass the same green mile marker, but the number never increased. Just mile 212 again, and again, and again. The air felt heavy in the car, like static or barometric pressure. Abby turned on the radio. It crackled, then landed on a station playing faint jazz like elevator music. Then a voice, male, quiet, tinny, broke in between the static. And the light never really changes, even if you drive for hours. We all froze. It was Chris's voice. He looked over at me, then at Abby. What the hell is this? She turned the knob to change the station. Nothing. Just the same low loop. Even if you drive for hours. Chris slammed the button to turn it off. The silence felt louder afterward. At 3:07 a.m., we saw Service Point Junction a third time. It looked abandoned now. The lights were off. The windows were gone, shattered out. The pumps had been knocked over like something had slammed into them, but the sign still flickered. Open! This time, Abby started crying. Not sobbing, but this silent, leaking panic. I could feel it too. The kind of dread that doesn't rise quickly. It just settles on you like dust. Chris said nothing, just drove past. None of us were tired anymore. It was at 3:40 when the GPS glitched out completely. The screen just went white, then black, then rebooted. And that was the last time we saw a town name on it. The road kept going. It was almost 4:00 a.m. when we made the decision. Chris slowed the car and pulled onto the gravel shoulder. The tires crunched to a stop. I need to get out, he said. We all did. The air smelled off, like hot metal and wet soil. We were surrounded by darkness, no signs, no distant lights, just an endless flat horizon punctuated by the same black silhouette of low scrubland and barbed wire fences. Abby got out without a word. I followed. We walked a little, maybe 20 yards, into a field to the right. The ground was dry but soft, crunchy in spots, like salt crusted underfoot. Chris stood with his hands on his hips, staring at the dark sky. Abby said, "Listen." I strained my ears. There were no crickets, no wind, just an overwhelming, unnatural silence. Then she said, "Turn around." We did. There was no car behind us, no road, just the field, empty, silent. I walked back a few feet, expecting to see the gravel, the reflectors, but it was gone. The whole stretch of highway we had just been driving on had vanished, like it was never there. Even our footprints in the dirt were gone. I could see Chris's chest moving hard, shallow breaths. Abby had sunk to the ground, her knees in the dirt, muttering something quietly over and over. I think it was, "We didn't turn around. We didn't turn around." I reached into my pocket to pull out my phone. The screen was on, but the time was blank, just a dash where the digits should be. Then, faintly, behind us, we saw headlights, coming from the direction we'd just walked, but there was no road. The lights were just there, hovering behind a haze, growing brighter. Chris grabbed Abby by the arm, and we all started walking the opposite way. Not running, just walking fast, with a purpose, as if not to disturb something. The lights didn't follow, but they didn't fade either. Eventually the sky started to brighten, a low mist rolled in, and slowly shapes returned, fences, poles, scraggly trees, and then the road was there again. We were standing at the side of it, like nothing had changed. The car was there too, but it was facing the other direction. We got in and drove. None of us spoke for the rest of the day. We didn't stop, didn't eat, didn't sleep. We made it to Portland 2 days later. I still don't know what happened that night. I just know we didn't turn around, not once. But we passed that gas station 3 times, and I don't think we were supposed to. Story 2. He asked me for a ride, but knew where I was going before I did. This happened in 2016. I was 25 at the time, driving solo from New Mexico to Colorado after a last-minute visit to my aunt in Santa Fe. It wasn't planned. I had just felt this urge to leave, to clear my head for a few days. No itinerary, no fixed stops, just me, the road, and enough caffeine to get me through the night. It was just after midnight when I hit Route 285 northbound, mostly empty highway, flickering radio signal, the occasional shape of a truck sleeping on the shoulder. My headlights were dim, but the moonlight was sharp that night. Everything looked dusted in silver. At some point, maybe 30 miles past Tres Piedras, I saw him, standing alone by a mile marker. I don't know the number, but he wasn't holding a thumb out or pacing or anything, just standing there. Like he'd already been waiting for me, or someone like me. I passed him at first, but something gnawed at me. He didn't look homeless. He wasn't carrying bags or a jacket, just jeans, a zipped-up grey hoodie, hands in the pockets. His posture was what unsettled me, and too relaxed, like he knew I'd stop, and I did. Maybe 200 feet past him, I reversed slowly, window down. "You need a ride?" He stepped closer, stopped next to the passenger side door. Then he said, "You're going to stop for gas in Antonito anyway." I just looked at him. I hadn't said that, I hadn't even decided that. But Antonito was the next town. I'd been watching the fuel gauge tick down. I was about 50 miles from empty. "Yeah," I said without meaning to. He opened the door and got in. Didn't ask, didn't smile, just clicked the seatbelt and sat. For a moment we both just listened to the road hum. He smelled neutral. No alcohol, no cigarettes, just cold air and dust. I glanced over. He was looking straight ahead. The cabin lights caught his face. Clean-shaven, pale, maybe mid-30s. Thin. His expression didn't change once. "Where you headed?" I asked, trying to sound casual. He said, "Where you'll stop." I thought maybe he was being difficult, or just weird. "I mean, which town?" He said, "You haven't picked one yet." That was when the first wave of unease hit me. Because he was right. I hadn't picked one. I was just going. We drove in silence for a while. He didn't ask for music. He didn't shift in his seat. Every now and then, I'd check the rearview mirror. No one behind us for miles. Then he spoke again. "You're going to miss the turn." "What turn?" I asked. "To the gas station. The one you're planning to stop at." That made me nervous, because up ahead, maybe 2 miles, was the first exit into Antonito, a left turn off the main road. I'd seen the signs on my last trip. I didn't say anything. But when the exit came into view, my hands moved slower than I expected. I blinked and the turn passed. He didn't laugh or say, "I told you so." He just nodded. "You'll turn around in 2 minutes." I felt cold, the kind of cold that seeps into your decisions. I did exactly what he said, kept driving another 2 miles before making a U-turn. I don't know why I did it. I just did. By the time we reached the gas station, I pulled in and parked. He didn't move. "I'll fill up," I said, reaching for the door. "No need," he said, "not yet." He wasn't looking at me. He was still staring forward, like he was watching something in the distance. I reached for my phone. No signal, no internet. Then he said, "You're about to ask me why I know these things." And I was. I was literally opening my mouth to ask just that. But I didn't. Because hearing him say it made the question irrelevant. Like he already knew every sentence I was going to say. He looked at me for the first time, then said, "You can ask, but it won't help." Then he smiled, just barely. Like he was enjoying the idea of me unspooling. We stayed at the gas station only a minute. He didn't ask for anything. I didn't get out. I just started the car again. Back on the road, I realized something I hadn't before. He hadn't blinked once since getting in the car. I know that sounds ridiculous, but I was watching now. His face was tilted just slightly to the left, enough for me to see the side of his eyes in the dim light. They didn't move. No moisture. No twitch. He just watched the road, as if waiting for something very specific. I tried to distract myself. "Are you from around here?" Silence. "What's your name?" Nothing. He only spoke again after 20 more miles. "You're going to ask if I've done this before." That froze me, because I was thinking exactly that. Not asking, not out loud, but I was thinking it, wondering if this was some kind of setup. or ritual. He went on, I've sat in this seat. I've watched this road. The only difference is the driver. I didn't say anything. The road stretched out ahead like it had no end. The landscape had flattened. Fewer trees now, just scrubland and the odd rusted fence. That's when we passed it. Mile marker 117. I don't know why I noticed it. Just a crooked green pole at the edge of the shoulder. Barely visible in the dark, but when we passed it, he closed his eyes, not a blink. A full, slow shut of both lids, then opened them again 5 seconds later. I don't know why that chilled me more than anything else. Maybe because it was deliberate, like he didn't want to see something that was there, or someone. When I finally dropped him off, I'll get to that, I stopped in a diner just outside Alamosa. I needed to feel human again, eat something, be around light and noise. While I was waiting for coffee, I searched that highway. I didn't even need to try hard. The second autocomplete result was Highway 285 mile marker 117 disappearance. It happened in July 2004. A woman named Elise Cardenas went missing. Her last phone ping was just past mile 117. She'd been driving alone from her parents' house in Española. Her car was found abandoned a mile past the marker, engine off, doors locked. A witness claimed she'd stopped to pick someone up. A man. No description. No photos, just the note, believed to be hitchhiker. There was no resolution, no suspect, no remains, just gone. I looked at the timestamp. Her last phone call, cut off mid-voicemail, was at 2:14 a.m. The time I had passed that marker? 2:13. I don't believe in coincidences anymore. By the time we crossed into Conejos County, the sky was beginning to lighten, but not from sunrise. There was this strange silver hue in the clouds, like dawn was trying to push through, but something was holding it back. We were almost at the Rio Grande cut when he finally said, "This is where I get out." I slowed the car. We were in the middle of nowhere, just sagebrush and silence. No exit, no mile marker. He didn't move. "Do you want me to stop?" "You already did." I looked down. My foot was on the brake. The car was completely still, but I hadn't touched it. I looked up. He was watching me now. Face turned completely toward mine, calm, precise, like he'd been studying me this whole time. Then he said, "You don't get to forget this one." "What do you mean?" But he didn't answer. He just reached for the door. Except he didn't. He didn't move at all. And yet, the next second, the passenger seat was empty. The door hadn't opened. The seatbelt was still clipped in, but he was gone. I stepped out, walked around the car. Nothing. Just tire tracks in dirt and silence. The same silence that filled the whole road behind me. I didn't sleep that day. I didn't finish the trip. I turned around, went back to Santa Fe, stayed at my aunt's for a week. I didn't tell her what happened. I didn't tell anyone. Except now, years later. Because the only thing that really matters in the end is this. He knew where I was going before I did. He knew when I would stop before I thought of it. He knew what I would say before I formed the words. And now, when I dream, I don't see his face. I hear my own voice, saying things I haven't thought yet. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Story 3. The map took us off the highway, but there was no signal and no sky. This happened in early 2022. My boyfriend Trevor and I were driving from Boise to a cabin rental in northern Idaho. We'd found it online, kind of a last-minute getaway after a brutal winter. The listing said remote but accessible, which turned out to be code for barely marked, barely paved, and definitely not lit. We left later than we should have. By the time we were out of McCall, it was almost 10 p.m. Trevor was driving. I had 1 bar of reception, so I downloaded the directions while I still could. The map said we had about 90 minutes to go. I remember the estimated arrival time, 11:43. The road narrowed after the last gas station. 2-lane blacktop, no divider, hemmed in by pine on both sides, the kind of road that feels more like a driveway the further you go. Our high beams were cutting through more and more mist. At first it was thin, Then it turned into fog, thick, dull, white. It didn't roll or swirl. It just hung there, heavy, still. After a while, I realized something. I couldn't see the stars, not a single one, and no moon either. It wasn't just fog. It was like there was no sky above us. I checked the map again. The route showed a small right turn up ahead onto a road called Red Pine Access. But when we reached the spot, there was no turn, just more trees. The map recalculated. Same name, different shape. It spun the blue line around like a maze, then dropped the signal. No more map. We kept going anyway. Neither of us said much. There was something about the fog, how still it was. The way it seemed to swallow the light from our headlights before it could even reach the trees. There was no wind, no sound. It felt less like we were driving and more like we were being carried. Trevor turned on the radio just to break the silence. It was static at first, then faint music, like elevator jazz, stretched and warped, then voices. At first, it just sounded like background chatter, the kind you'd hear in a crowded room, muffled through a wall. But then it came forward, two voices, a man and a woman. "Just keep driving. You're almost there." Trevor turned the volume down. We looked at each other. I said, "Did they just, He shook his head, then said, "That was your voice." We turned the radio off. About 20 minutes after the radio incident, we saw the sign. It was old, wooden, nailed between two leaning posts. Looked like it had been up since the 70s, just one word, in white block letters. Return. We didn't know what it meant. It wasn't a road sign, it wasn't reflective, just weathered paint over split wood, half sunk in the mossy ground. We passed it and kept going. Another 10 minutes, more trees. The fog didn't thin. If anything, it got denser. Our brights weren't helping. Then we passed the sign again, same shape, same posts, but the word had changed. Etern. We slowed down this time. I leaned toward the window, trying to see if we had doubled back. Trevor said, "I haven't turned once." I believed him. The road had been completely straight, no forks, no intersections. 5 minutes later, the trees changed. They weren't tall anymore, shorter, closer to the road. They leaned inward like they were growing toward the car. I swear they hadn't looked like that before. Then we saw the sign again. Uran 3 letters. That was it. I told Trevor to stop. Just stop the car. We sat in the silence for a full minute. Then we both stepped out. It was like stepping into wool. The fog was warm, damp. It soaked into your clothes and clung to your skin. I tried looking at the trees, but they didn't look stable. They wavered, just slightly, like you'd see in a reflection over water. I walked back toward the sign. It was gone. We both saw it. Moments earlier, we saw the word Jörn nailed to wood. Now there was just a patch of dirt and a tilted stump. We got back in the car. Trevor didn't say anything. He just started driving again. I watched the clock. 11:43 came and went. No cabin, no lights, no turns. Just the road, the fog, and the sense that we were being funneled into something. We passed the sign one last time, but it didn't say anything. Just a blank board. And this time there were no posts, just two trees holding it up by their limbs. Eventually, the car stopped moving. It wasn't out of gas. Trevor hadn't braked. It just stopped. We didn't even feel a jolt. The engine was still running, but the tires weren't moving. I looked out the window. The ground didn't shift. We were just suspended. The fog had thickened to the point where I couldn't see the hood of the car anymore. Trevor put it in reverse. Nothing. He turned the wheel. No response. It was like the road wasn't there anymore. Just fog, and this quiet. We stayed there for maybe 10 minutes. I wanted to cry, but even my fear felt muted, like the fog had pressed down on it, dulled it. Then I saw a light, distant, off to the right, maybe 100 yards away. A warm glow, like a porch lamp. "There's a house," I said. Trevor looked at me, then back at the fog. He opened the door and stepped out. I followed. We didn't talk, just walked toward the light, through thorns, over wet grass. The trees didn't look right, too narrow, too soft, like their bark was damp paper. The light got closer. We pushed through a break in the trees and stopped, because it wasn't a house. It was a pair of headlights, facing us, our own car, sitting 100 feet ahead, headlights on, engine off. We had approached from behind it, even though we'd never turned around. I stepped forward, slowly. The tail lights were glowing too, but the car was empty. The passenger door was open. Trevor was still next to me. I turned to look, but he wasn't looking at the car. He was looking behind me. I turned, and I saw the exact same light again. A second pair of headlights, also pointed at us, coming from the opposite direction. Then a third light, then a fourth, all identical, all ours, just us, coming toward ourselves, from every direction. Trevor whispered, "We're not moving." I said nothing. He stepped back. I followed. And as we walked backward into the fog, all the lights began to dim, one by one, until there was only darkness, the kind of darkness that doesn't lift with time, the kind that replaces where you were. We never found the cabin. We didn't find the road again either. Eventually, we followed the sound of running water and found a ranger's trail. A Via service station picked us up around 7 a.m. They said we were almost 20 miles off the closest marked route. When they drove us back to where we thought we'd been, there was nothing. No road, no signs, just trees and thick, grey fog, hanging in place like it hadn't moved in years. They said we probably got turned around, that we hallucinated from stress. But sometimes, on cloudy nights, I'll hear the voice again on the radio. "You're almost there." And I'll swear I can see a light up ahead, but I never follow it, not anymore.